So Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. This is a movie that got a lot of love and a lot of hate before it even hit the big screen. After seeing it, there is an argument for both sides. So it's been 5 years since the original came out, and that's a long time between sequels and originals, at least in my eyes. There has been a ton of reshoots for this movie. Lots of delays, lots of controversy with the whole Amber Heard scenario, and people saying they didn't want her in the movie, let's cut her out, but then she was already in it, and then they're saying, well, we're going to cut her out of a lot of scenes. It's a lot to take in. But if you're one of those who need to know right out of the gate, yes, she is in it. More so in the beginning than in the rest of the movie, but it's kind of needed for the plot. She is in it. I'm going to say a good, solid first 20 minutes. Kind of fills in some storyline and things like that. And then after that, she's kind of sprinkled in a little here, a little there, and then she pops up at the end again a little bit later. She's probably in it more than you want her in it, but it's still not a lot. Now with that out of the way, there was a lot of good and a lot of bad to this movie. I'm in that weird boat where it wasn't horrible, but it definitely wasn't good. It had potential, and yet they botched it up. I think Jason Momoa plays an incredible Aquaman. I love the first movie. This one, again, had potential, but the execution behind it just wasn't there. This movie has a lot of that tongue-in-cheek, slapstick kind of humor to it, a couple one-liners. Definitely more humor than the original movie. And whether you like that or not, I guess that's personal taste. It's definitely not as bad as Thor Love and Thunder. If that's what you're wondering, not that bad. But some of the little quirkiness may or may not be your taste. Now the action scenes were plentiful in this movie. From very beginning to very end, there is action the whole way around. And the action scenes were really good. I love the choreograph in the action scenes. The fights were really fun. But after seeing them, you're going to say there's something missing. Something wasn't quite right with that scene. Like there should have been more, but you're not quite able to put your finger on it. And that's because personally, I think they were rushing through this movie. There were so many scenes, so many scenarios. And the second you hit that high point, boom, the scene's over. And I'm like, wait a minute, there was still a lot more we could have did with that. And it ended almost as soon as it started. And that happened scene after scene after scene. Something else would come up, another scenario, and you're like, all right, this seems interesting. Boom, over. No details, not a lot of story there. It's like they were just trying to rush all kind of stuff in. And normally I would say, hey, this movie's too long. They could have cut a lot of fluff out. This movie actually could have been a little bit longer and put some of that fluff in and filled in some story gaps. And maybe that's where some of these reshoots were coming from. They were cutting Amber Heard out of some areas, and I think some of them were pretty obvious where they were cutting her out of. But I think in cutting her out, that also cut part of the story out. And some of the blanks that I was missing, like who is this person? Where did they come from? Why are we doing this? And maybe it was part of her dialogue to help explain some of this. I'm not sure. But either way, for a 2-hour movie, there was definitely room for more. I can't believe I've actually said a movie was not long enough. That is so incredibly not me. And then don't get me started on the dialogue. The dialogue was horrible. And again, I don't know if that's part of stuff that they were cutting out. Maybe that's why it was horrible. Or maybe it's just the writing in general just sucked. I don't know. Then we have the CGI. The CGI was complete hit or miss. There were some very beautiful, vibrant underwater scenes of the city and machines and some animals, but for whatever reason, when they throw Aquaman and other Atlanteans and people under the water, that's when the CGI goes to crap. The people, and I say people loosely, you know, Aquaman, Atlanteans, all the other people, when they're in the water, it looks really bad. Like a green screen effect that I did in my basement kind of bad. Especially the hair. The hair looked horrific. Just the CGI in general was like, it was so patchy. Great scene, horrible scene, great scene, horrible scene. And it takes you in and out of the movie. For such a high budget movie, you would think they'd be a little more cautious of getting that CGI right. And then I got to talk about the fact that the majority of this movie felt like it was all about climate change and global warming and all this other stuff. And what was supposed to be the main antagonist took a side seat to other things. So in a way, we had three antagonists, one of which global warming. I don't know why they really emphasized on that in this movie. It drove me nuts in a way. But then we had Black Manta, and we understand his need for vengeance, and he's got to rebuild his suit, and he's got to do all these other things. And without saying any spoilers, he has to use a particular ancient Atlantean item that poisons the air and causes weird mutations and global warming. So that's emphasized again. But in order to get his revenge, he gets his hands on the Black Trident, which belongs to an ancient Atlantean who is evil, and his magic kind of possesses Black Manta, and that's the third antagonist. But he's like the big gun, so to speak, but he doesn't get that screen time. He doesn't get the presence that I think he deserves. Like, if he's supposed to be as big and powerful as they claim he is, the end fight should have been a little bit better. That's about all I want to say without spoiling too much. It's just, I feel like it was like jamming this scene, jamming that scene, a whole bunch of stuff thrown in there, and there wasn't enough emphasis and specifics tied in to make the movie great. It was just like, throw everything in the basket and hope it works. Overall, like I said, I could see the potential in this movie. I wanted to like it. I tried to like it, and there was a lot of things I did like. Overall, I was just very underwhelmed with the fact that the movie took me in and out of it. It was like scenes that I was like really excited. I was really into the movie, and then areas where I was very disappointed, and then it pulled me back out of the movie. Not the great way to end the DCEU. But if you saw Aquaman and the Last Kingdom, drop your comments and thoughts on it down below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe button on your way out, and I'll see you at the concession stands.